This is TWiT.
That dovetails into what's also on the rundown about Amazon Echo being able to say delete.
Yes. That's something new that rolled out today. The ability to say delete today's recordings or last week's or last week's.
But what Lisa was saying about plausible deniability is the same thing in a different way that Amazon's doing, where they're putting all the onus on the user. You have to remember to say, remove this data, or don't opt into this data, or do this research into each app. That they say that that's why their system is the best, is because they care. They check every app.
I have a theory on this. I think this is in the wake of GDPR and privacy regulations in California and elsewhere. This is what you're going to see: is all these companies say, "Oh yeah, we completely agree. That's why we've given the user the choice."
Right.
And they know, because they know from their own experience, that the
most users
tyranny
are
of the default, users are just going to use whatever the default is. So they actually have it both ways. They look like they're giving you lots of choice. They're giving you lots of control of privacy. Apple does that. In fact, it even says, this program's been using your location in the background. You want to let it continue? And most people say, well, maybe in that case they'll say no, but I think in most cases people just say fine.
Yeah.
And these companies know this. Google knows this. Facebook knows this.
Well, no, they actually designed their. A couple of companies have been fined in Europe for this, for so-called dark patterns. You design your website to push the user into certain paths of doing things and certain default settings. And this is actually illegal under some sections of European law.
Although, do they even know if it's a dark pattern? Because that's dark pattern, you don't even know.
Right?
Well, true, yeah.
So I think we're going to see this become an emerging story, because, like you said, the CCPA goes into effect next year. And
California privacy.
Yeah, the California Consumer Privacy Act.
It's the strongest law in the United States.
Well, here's the thing, because California now consumers will have the right to corporate disclosure of how their personal data is being collected and used. So they have the right to disclosure, but it doesn't specify how it's disclosed. They'll have the consumers will have the right to access the personal data that has been collected by companies. They'll have the right to request that the personal data be deleted. They'll have the right to know how companies have been sharing their personal data. But the scope of the law is actually kind of limited, because the company has to earn more than $25 million a year in revenue.
There's incidentally no punishment.
It has to make, and this company that makes more than $25 million a year in revenue has to make at least 50% of its revenue from selling personal computed data. So if you're a company like Amazon or Microsoft or Apple, it's probably not going to affect you, because you can say plausibly it's a very tiny revenue stream.
These were all later amendments made to what was a very strong privacy law. And then these companies came in and said, well, let's change that. Let's change that. And most importantly, let's eliminate any punishment. And then go ahead, pass your law. And that's the dark pattern. That's what you're going to see time and time again, is these companies paying lip service to privacy, while in fact, people aren't going to have the choices, or they're not going to, they're going to be pushed in the wrong direction.
And like you pointed out, Wesley, once again, the onus is going to be on people to have
figure
to
out how to
protect
do
their
this.
basic rights,
find
as opposed to
the hidden email that they have to find and send and request this data. And just out of curiosity, I'm not familiar with this law. Does this include government sources of personal data?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like red light cameras or any other information that they scoop up on you?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I would love to see what the local government has on me. So every time a toll tag is hit, all that stuff. Because that's all personal.
Yeah.
I think the other issue is that while many companies are collecting data on you, it has been up to now siloed. Yeah. But increasingly it's being distributed, sold. It's going to data brokers who are then selling it on to other parties,
amalgamating it,
and as it gets added together, they build a ultimately perfect picture of your behavior.
It's like the mortgage scandal, where they dice up all these mortgages and sell them off.
It does kind of it's kind of depressing that the best minds in computer science these days aren't working on the big problems. They're working out how to sell us cheap tat.
They're working on the big problem, how to make more money.
That's the big
problem. Why would they not work on that?
The adage, you improve what you measure.
Right.
And there's not a really good index to make sure that
we haven't made a privacy index measurable, quantifiable.
And make it public, and make it so that everyone is focused on that.
Yeah, that's a really good plan.
No, I think the EFF does try to do that, but if you've got one organization,
it's uphill. If consumers don't care, it's uphill.
Yeah.
I
won't mention his name, but someone at the EFF told me they've actually got on a whiteboard in the office number of days since Facebook's last privacy failure. It's constantly having to be.